You might want to cancel your trips to Disney World this summer because this customer, Jonathan Van Boskirk, yes, got his name. Jonathan Van Boskirk wrote an op-ed in Orlando Sentinel about the Disney business model that he used to love and has now changed so much that they just might lose him as a customer. So let's get started with the beginning of what he was writing here. When he said, unfortunately, I'm strongly rethinking our commitment to Disney and thus Orlando. The more Disney moves away from the values and vision of Walt Disney, the less Disney World means to me. Disney's forgetting that guest immersion is at the core of its business model. He went on to say, Walt Disney used his corporation to express his patriotism during World War II and his pro-capitalism beliefs afterwards. The difference today is that the people who run Disney use social media to scream to the whole world that a decision has been made for political reasons. Let's go through a few more of his thoughts. Specifically, he had an issue with what was going on in some of these riots. Trader Sam, I don't go to Disney World, so I don't know anything about Trader Sam, but Trader Sam is out because he might offend certain people, he writes. Every grown up in the room realizes that Trader Sam is not a representation of reality and is no more based on racism than every other Disney caricature of an out-of-touch white American dad. The same with Pirates of the Caribbean. Disney has made significant changes to Pirates of the Caribbean over the years. Whether Disney caved to political pressure or really thought the alterations were necessary is irrelevant. This should matter to the people of Orlando because if Disney drives away customers like me, Orlando loses money. I can take my tourist dollars elsewhere. Disney, please return to the values and vision of Walt. The customer experience should be at the core of your business model. Immersion should not be sacrificed on the altar of political correctness and appeasing that Twitter mob. Lastly, he's also a Christian conservative and he pointed that out in the article as well. Are you guys gonna not go there anymore? This bastion of libs?
Well, okay, so there's so many parts of this. Number one, conservatives have been trying a boycott of Disney for decades now. I remember covering it, I think in the late 1990s. And why did they do it back then? They said, oh, now they allow their gay employees to have the same rights as the straight employees. Well, we hate that. I mean, they get healthcare and benefits and stuff. That's supposed to be just for straight people. So they tried this big boycott of Disney. The worst boycott in American history.
I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, of course, because nobody did it, right? And they love Disney World, they love Disneyland, they ain't gonna boycott it, right? It didn't work at all. And so this isn't gonna work either. But let's go to the content of what he's saying. So I actually think this story is important because it goes towards the conservative mindset. There's a couple factors here. Number one is they don't want anything to change, ever, right? But what if the thing that happened in the past was really bad? No, I don't want it to change. I don't want it to change, okay? But wait a minute, we had slavery in the past. Didn't we want that to change? I don't want anything to change. Some of this stuff was in reference to slavery. That we don't still want that, do we? No, I don't want anything to change, right? They used to have a character in the Disney universe. And it was actually, I think Donald Duck was Combat Duck or something, and Commando Duck. And it was horribly racist against Japanese people. Why? Because it was during World War II and we're fighting them. And I don't know if you know this, but we used to do a lot of propaganda against our enemies. And so there was the Huns of Germany, of course the barbaric Turks during World War I, and the Japanese, the racism against the Japanese were unbelievable during World War II, and we did internment camps, etc. And so when they had that very, very, very racist song against the Japanese, they thought, this is kind of awkward. We should probably take this one down, right? And so, maybe. But people like Van Boskirk or whatever his name is are like, no, we can't have any change at all. I love that song. Wait, why did you love that song? Okay, now he didn't specifically talk about that song, to be fair, but it goes towards the point. I'm gonna give you one last example of something that should change, right? In the Pirates of the Caribbean exhibit that he actually does refer to in his editorial, they have something called a bride auction where they purchase women and then rape them. Jeez. That was the history of the bride auctions. The pirates really did do that. We're not erasing the history of that, and that's an interesting and uncomfortable history. And by the way, if we tried to teach that in the schools, probably this guy would be opposed to teaching it, right? The actual history of it. But in this not a ride, but the little thing that they put on, exhibit that they had in Disney World, it was said, the banner read, auction, take a wench for a bride, and then the animatronic robot or whatever, the woman would lift up her skirt and show her legs and twirls back and forth, and then the auctioneer would say, we want the redhead, etc. Right? So it was like literally an auction to buy women. Do you really want your daughters to see that? I don't. Maybe he does. I don't know. But I say, pretty good idea to change that. Okay, so I got one more thing I wanted to say, but Julie, I wanted you to jump in.
It's really funny, and I don't mean to sound sexist in this, but when I was reading the article, I actually thought it was written by somebody named Karen, and the reality is it was somebody named Jonathan writing this article. And as a mother of 4, I was thinking, I was like, oh my God, I bet he's been to Disney World so many times and his kids have aged up and they're miserable and he's misdirecting all of his anger towards Disney's new policies instead of just like, it's probably time to kill the Disney vacations with your 16-year-old son who's not enjoying them anymore.
Julie, that's so interesting that you say that, because earlier in the show we covered the story of Ron Johnson, Republican senator from Wisconsin, and we didn't get a chance to comment on it, but he said something weird that had nothing to do with the topic at hand. It was about vaccinations, and he's got a conspiracy theory on that and stuff, but he said they're affecting our kids. I think that they're all getting feedback from their kids who are now all progressives, right? Because like 80% of the Gen Z and millennials are progressive, somewhere between 70 and 80%. So I think Julie's onto something. That this guy's
scaring
like,
our kids, he said, and they're making them go crazy. And next, they don't even have to do it anymore. The society will do it for them. That's what
yeah. So they're looking at it and they're like, now our kids think you shouldn't even be racist against Japanese people. What is this world coming to, right? So
you know they're going to vote for Democrats when they turn 18.
Yeah. Exactly, that's their number one fear. And so, but I want to make a second point. The whole focus on being pro-capitalism is so wonderfully ironic here. Because why is Disney making these decisions? Because they're all like, big liberals. No, executives at Disney want to maximize profit. And if they don't maximize profit, they will be fired. How do you maximize profit? By appealing to the greatest number of people. The good news for the country is, even though there's still these Republican monsters running around, these retrogrades, etc., most of the country is now clearly progressive, and especially among the young, under 45-year-olds are massively progressive. That's why Nike did the Colin Kaepernick ad. That's why Disney is saying, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't have women auctions, right? And we shouldn't do these things at all. And we should change with the times so we can make more money. The reason Disney's doing it is because they are pro-capitalist.
The free market society and capitalism it only applies when Republicans like it to benefit themselves. Whenever that is changing the narrative and they have to actually do something differently, they are totally against free markets. They're against the way democracy, we've seen the way that also works, because they're losing their power. That's their issue. So also one other thing, the boycott, you talk about boycotts of all these things don't work. You know why boycott of Disney World won't work? Is because your kids are gonna say, hey, Dad, let's go to Disney World. Are you gonna say, no, son, because there's too many politically correct things happening at Disney World. He's gonna go, lose his mind, you're gonna go to Disney World anywhere. Ted Cruz is against the entire country of Mexico, so is the Republican Party. He went down to Mexico because his daughter said, let's go, Dad. And boy, did he go. You're gonna go when the kids say, hey, you know what? I'm on spring break, let me go. Trust, you will.
Yes, and these guys are trying to hold on to a time that, number one, wasn't that good to begin with. And number two, it is a futile effort. And the corporations have already realized that the people trying to hold on to the bad past have lost. And that the ironic thing is, the thing they're most complaining about is capitalism. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.